All right, let's go ahead and get started. Usually the class after the exam is called a rub salt on wound, session. Because we'll talk about the question and we'll talk about the answers. So sometimes it stings a little bit because, oh man, I should have answered this way, that way. Oh, I missed that, or the comparison was read in the opposite way. But it's all actually good because this time, this way you won't make the same mistake next time. So that's good because we don't want to get points deducted twice for the same reason, right? Does it make sense? Yep. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with this. And I'll take roll at some point, but not right now. Okay. The first thing I want to do is just to bring up the exam again. So this way we can take a closer look at the exam because just by scanning the exam or scanning what people turn in, I can tell that some people did not read the instructions, particularly, the standard of tracing. Okay, the standard of tracing here, I put in parentheses, read this only if you have doubts about your understanding of what is expected. Because this is something that we have done so many times, so for most people, I don't think it should come as a big surprise. Okay, we have to do it, one column per variable, one row per, executed statement, and so on and so forth. But I just thought, maybe some people missed the class many times, like people who are not right here, right now. So I just spelled it out, one column for comments. Use this column to indicate a condition and its value, or conditional statements and loop statements, okay, which is our typical way of indicating, okay, this is true, stay in the loop, true, stay in the loop, false, get out of the loop, that sort of thing. One column for line numbers, be sure to fill this column for all rows. So there should not be any empty items on that column. One column for each variable indicate the value of a variable after a line updates it. Identical updates must be indicated. Use a pre-row to indicate the pre-condition. Use a post-row to indicate the post-condition or the end of the trace. So basically, really standard stuff. I just wanted to spell it out so that it doesn't come as a big surprise to anyone in the class. So here are the questions. The first question is a trace. It looks horrible because we're dealing with 300 numbers that are in the 300 range and 298. But it really does not take a lot of iterations, did it? No, because how many times does it need to go from 298 to 300? Twice. That's all it took. So what I'll do today is I will trace the algorithm myself, save it into a folder, and upload it to Moodle. So that way, if you guys want to review the solution, you can follow that. There are also two versions of the test in the class. So some people will see 300 and other people will see 400. I cannot remember what the alternate value was. So there were, I gave out alternating, versions of the exam during the test. Yes?
If I read the wrong giving that you gave, and I did the wrong numbers.
Okay. It is almost impossible that you will get it wrong so that it is exactly the same as the alternate version. Do you know what I mean?
What I mean was, I'll
Okay. Okay, so we'll just do the indentation, the usual stuff, and make it a little bit bigger. Shrink the columns, that, and trace it. I don't think this one really should be a big surprise, because all I did was to put a conditional statement outside of a loop, and the condition of the conditional statement is actually exactly the same as the condition of the loop, which means if it is true for the conditional statement, it will be true for the loop, at least initially. So in this case, it really just it's just an exercise to see whether people remember how to do it or not. So we have comments on one column, we have line number, and then we have only two variables, x and y. And we'll go ahead and optimize the width. Magnify this a little bit. I think that should be more than enough rows to do it. Did anyone run out of time because there's too much to write? No? You did? Okay. Just a little bit. With my other classes, the Friday class was able to take the test online. And you guys might think, oh man, lucky them. No, it didn't turn out that way. Because people could not remember how to save a file from the browser first. They tried to open it, within the browser, which was open read only. And, they don't remember how to turn it from read only to non-read only. So I have to walk around to tell people, okay, save the file as something, remember where you save it, and so on and so forth. And then some people forgot to upload or did not have time to upload a file at the end of the test. Now, you guys don't have to worry about it because it's on paper, right? You just turn it as much, whatever you have on the paper. And for those people, they save it locally on the computer. If they forget or cannot upload in time, then it's up to my discretion to see whether I can accept, what they email to me, right? So in a way, I think paper test is not a disadvantage. They don't have an option to draw something. Okay, they cannot just draw on a piece of paper, okay, this is what the loop looks like, and try to reason it out. They don't have any options like that. So I think it breaks even. There's no clear advantage one way or another. Okay, so in the precondition, we have to indicate what is x initial value. So in this case, x starts with a value of 300, y is 298. So now we have 300, 298, just like that. Then we start with the execution of line 1. And we can just look at the code here. Line 1 really does not do anything to the variables. It evaluates whether x is greater than y or not. So in the comments, we have to say x greater than y is true, because x is 300, 300 is more than 298. Then we move on to line 2. Line 2 is asking what is the condition y is less than x, which is exactly the same question as the first one, except it is asked in the opposite way. Well, of course, that is true too. I will be looking for transitions. In other words, I will be looking for people indicating that the condition is true on line 1, and as a result, we are moving on to line 2. That is what I'm looking for. So from line 2, because the condition is true, we move on to line 3. And on line 3, we add 1 to y. Y goes from 298 to 299. In this case, I'm looking for the indication that the condition is true on line 2, and as a result, we move on to line 3. So I'm looking for demonstration of an understanding of how conditional statements and loops work. And in this case, there's also a transition from 298 to 299. So that's something that I would be looking for too. After line 3, where do we go? We have to go back to the beginning of the loop, which is on line 2. Okay? So that's what I'm looking for too, is after line 3, we go back to line 2, because that is also a behavior of a loop. On line 2, we evaluate the same condition. Y is less than x is true because 299 is less than 300. Then we move on to line 3 again. This time it is 300. It goes from 299 to 300. We go back to line 2, and the condition is false this time. 300 is not less than 300. And as a result of that, where do we go? Line 5. This is a little bit tricky because I think some people just kind of missed line 5 altogether and say post. Well, that would be a minor deduction. It's not going to be a whole lot, but there will be a deduction. So this is a transition that I'm looking for too, is when the condition is false at the beginning of a loop, we have to get out of the loop to whatever is after the loop. On line 5, what do we do? On line 5, we put a 0 into x. So there we go. And after that, where do we go? Post. Just like that. Okay. Are there any questions about the solution of this one? No questions? Yep.
Should line 5 be the same indentation as the loop? Because on the explanation part.
Line 5 has the same indentation as line 2 and 4 because they are at the same level. And that's why after the loop we have to perform line 5. Yep.
If after line 5 we went back to 1 and then said false, and then
It does not go back because it's a conditional statement.
so that would be false. But
No, you don't go from line 5 back to line 1.
After, sorry. After you assign x, then you go back to 1 and then say x greater than y, and then you say false, and then you exit the
No, it's not line 1 is not a loop. Line 1 is a conditional statement. So that means you only evaluate it once. Because according to the picture, remember the picture of a conditional statement? It goes like this. Now in this case, we only have something to do in the then branch. So that means the then branch has something to do. But the else branch is basically empty. In either case, this is all in one direction. So there's no way for you to go back with a conditional statement. And that's why after line 5, we do not go back to line 1. Yep.
So then, for question, is it okay if I jump to question 3? Is it okay that I jump to question 3? And
You guys want to jump to question 3? That's fine. That makes sense. Because they're the same algorithm, different initial condition.
So then, looking at the picture of question 3, does that mean that the answer to question 3 is that it's a dead branch? Am I wrong in that?
It's not a dead branch because it still depends on the value of x and y.
Okay.
A dead branch means regardless of the values of the variables, you never get into the conditional statement or a particular branch of a conditional statement. So in this case, it is not a dead branch because I can certainly pick values for x and y so that it will get into the conditional statement. Okay. That's a good question because it makes me clarify what a dead branch is. A dead branch means regardless of the values of all the variables, you still cannot get into that branch. That makes it a dead branch. So in this case, I have to specify specific values for x and y to test the algorithm. So let's go ahead and deal with the third question because it's definitely closely related to this one. So now we have comments again, we have line number, we have x, we have y. And we scroll to question number 3. And according to this page here, question number 3 says, what if x starts with a value of 300 and y starts with a value of 300 as well? So what you do is you say the precondition is starting with 300 with x, and y also starts with a value of 300. You still have to start executing from line 1. There's no way around starting from the beginning. But even the first time on line 1, x is greater than y is false. Now, because it is false and I did not specify an else, that means there's nothing to do. You basically go to post right away. If someone write down line 5 for line 6 for and if, I won't take any points off. Okay, if someone says line 1, line 6, and then post, that's fine as well. I personally think that's an easy 10 point. Yep.
I am confused about the line 5, so I think I put 5.
That would not be right. Yep. Okay, so are we okay with this one? Okay. So let me create a folder for today. And I'll save it as exam 1, Q1, Q3 because it's the answer to both questions. Okay, so that's done. Okay, here we have question number 2, pre and post condition. I really don't think this is a hard question.